Hi, this is Strategy Cast, where smart marketers and bold business thinkers share the plays behind brand breakthroughs. I'm Lori Jones, President and CEO of Avasec Communications. The marketers who win in the AI era won't necessarily be the most technical. They'll be the ones asking better strategic questions. In this episode, we're unpacking how AI is helping experienced marketers rethink campaign planning, uncover stronger insights, accelerate research, and build more authoritative brands and executive voices. You'll also hear why many organizations are still approaching AI far too narrowly and how strategic leaders can use it to create smarter, more connected marketing systems. Today, I'm joined by Dan Nestle, a longtime marketing and communications strategist who has led brand, content, and transformation initiatives inside global organizations, including Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. Dan brings a rare perspective on how AI is reshaping executive authority, strategic marketing workflows, and modern B2B communications.
A competitive edge starts with strategy, and strategy starts with knowing how to develop one. Strategy Cast is a leading marketing podcast that serves up strategic insights, trends, and tips to help separate your business from the pack. Tune in weekly as host Lori Jones interviews bold marketing leaders who have priceless wisdom and are willing to share. Each episode explores cutting-edge approaches that have proven instrumental in transforming brands into industry trailblazers.
Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thanks, Lori. I can't believe I do all those things whenever I hear somebody introduce me.
Yeah, you know what?
Crazy.
You sound really good. You sound really good on paper and even better in person.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. My business right now is all about, getting your personal, professional authority all squared away and making sure that you have the authority that you have is recognized by AI. So if I don't have my full dance card filled out, in my LinkedIn profile, et cetera, it's not great for my business.
Oh.
So I tend to look a lot better in paper than I do in person.
You and
It's
I
kind
both,
of
the cobbler.
no lies though.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my
right.
gosh. It's so true. You do have an incredible background. It's completely amazing. Tell us a little bit more about your journey and really what led you to where you are today.
Yeah, I had a really roundabout way of getting into marketing and communications. And, I finally got there after spending like half a dozen years or so in Japan teaching and like doing some recruiting and trying to figure out how I'm going to seek my fame and fortune in the gabled land of Tokyo. I was in Japan for 16 years all in, right? So everything starts there. But eventually I landed on marketing by accident. I was a good writer. Still am, I think, I hope. But I was always a good writer, always really kind of concerned about narrative and about the way people are using language. So I started a copywriting business, quit my job back in 2000, started a copywriting business, got some clients, thankfully. And eventually, I started, remember, these are early days of content marketing.
Right.
I started doing things like, managing website projects and, doing these kind of crazy, wait a second, what if we create a web page that actually brings people to us and they sign up for something, right? Which is back in the day was really revolutionary.
What a concept.
Yeah. So I started doing that, and one of my clients picked me up and called me a marketing and PR manager. So I guess that's what I was doing. And that launched a corporate career that lasted, 15 or 16 years or more. And more than that, almost 20 years. And now, now I'm on my own doing my own thing. Really got into AI and building my own business.
And you're doing a great job. I think one of the cool things to think about as technology has changed marketing and communications, advertising, PR so much over the last 25 years, 30 years, is what we would have done before without, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So back to your Mitsubishi days, what, if you could go back to that time and maybe even the early days versus the later days, because tech really did change, in those later moments.
Yeah.
With today's AI capabilities, where would you start first?
Interesting. Great question. And I've never heard that before. Actually, this is the first time somebody's ever asked me that question. And And I sometimes, think about, gosh, life would have been so much different if I would have had these things at my fingertips then than I do now. And when we talk about Mitsubishi Heavy, that was about 10 years ago, all in. So like, let's say bring us all back to the dark days of 2016 before anybody had AI.
Right.
I was the first hire in the US for a Marcom kind of advisor, let's put it that way, reporting into Tokyo. And my boss's vision, my boss's also name is Dan. Dan's vision was to actually build a industry leading, like best in class Marcom function for MHI and bring them into the 20th century. And remember, we're already in the 21st.
You're right. Yeah.
We're talking about the oldest Japanese company essentially that exists, the most historical, I guess, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And a company that was manufacturing 400 or 500 products, I think is the number. And one of them was a submarine, and one of them was a little car turbine that you put in an engine.
Yeah.
So there's like a wide range of businesses within Mitsubishi Heavy. So the challenge was, how do we create an overarching brand and a brand, I guess an umbrella brand that would encompass all of the group companies, all of the
audiences,
audiences, et cetera. So brought me on, and we always approached it from Marcom. It wasn't like marketing or communications. It was really, let's build that corporate brand,
right?
And let's identify those audiences, and let's start to really pull in all the brands under our umbrella and make one Mitsubishi Heavy Industries group.
Right.
So that was the challenge, and of course, we had no budget. Japanese companies, at least especially MHI, thought of marketing as kind of just a correlated sales function, and sales would be the thing. And sales were mostly done by person to person business. Somebody, or the group knows people. So they didn't see a lot of reason. Yeah.
It's amazing that just 10 years ago, there's still that mindset.
Oh, for sure.
Regarding market, and it exists everywhere. But I think the difference is that it was with a company that large.
You have a company that large, a company, it's global, 40 billion-ish company, and really traditional, and, didn't have mid-career hires. So the vast majority of the leadership team were all 30, 40-year veterans of MHI who'd been working for various divisions. So, you had a lot of, that's not how we used to do it, or we're doing just fine without it, or whatever. But there were enough people with vision and who said, just let Dan and Dan do what they do. Mm. And we got really fortunate in that respect. Some wonderful people. Everybody was great, but depending on what their attitude was towards marketing and where we should go and how much rope they were going to give us, it varied person to person. But building the function was one thing, but then once we got it going a little bit and we hired an agency to help us out and we started to build our strategy, then you had to deliver, right? So our initial approach was, and I won't talk about the internal stuff of brand building right now, but then as far as like marketing and communications for our customers or for audience groups, the initial approach was, first of all, to get a handle on who those audiences are and focus on specific, like large banner marquee products and subsidiaries, and see what we can make out of that. We started to think about, okay, what are the bigger stories that we can tell about MHI so that people understand what MHI is and know it's not the cars, people. It's something, it's other things. We eventually landed on energy as the thing, energy and aviation a little bit, but really energy. So how do we get into that? How do we really start marketing ourselves as a forward-thinking energy production company that isn't mired down in the stereotypes of, old Japanese fossil fuel, blah, blah, blah. Because, because the truth was so far from that. The truth was this was a very forward-thinking, advanced technology company that was building the best power plants on the planet, the best turbines. We were in all different kinds of forms of energy. The only thing that we weren't doing at the time was solar, but we were doing wind, we were doing, gas, we were doing
All the above.
natural gas, all of them. And we landed on this whole energy story. So we had an all of the above kind of approach. And then we just started figuring out who are the audiences, who are the buyers, where do we go with this? What are the events we have to be at? What's the media that covers this? All the stuff that a marketer should ask themselves, or a communicator both, should be asking themselves about building this out. So we created a content hub, say, on
Right.
and this is stuff people do. It's not like
Yeah,
revolutionary,
exactly. Yeah.
but for MHI to approve it was sort of crazy. So
Right.
built a content hub, which is still running, called Spectra. We did, which is really kind of long form feature articles, and it turns out we were so prescient because that is such great fuel for AI now.
Yeah.
But
Very
we
important.
built this great content hub. We started to pull in, start to unify brand look and feel. And we started to put our people out at industry events, places where they needed to be. And then we started to do something that was really crazy for MHI, which is account-based marketing. We started looking at LinkedIn, looking at some other platforms, identifying the exact companies and people, and figuring out how to target them, sending out, email campaigns, everything that a marketer does. And, the end result was that we established a solid presence at the biggest energy conferences in the country. We had a database of 8,000 marketing qualified leads that we were nurturing by email. In the US, I'm talking about. Globally,
Right.
bigger. We had a smooth, let's call it, workflow, or like smooth relationships between the mothership, as it were, and all the subsidiaries and all the marketing teams. We were all working together on projects, sharing information never happened before. So it was from where I stand, it was a dramatic success, and they're continuing now. They're doing great work in that. So that's what we were doing. Your question was, sorry, Lori,
the question is, so reflecting on all of that,
Mhm.
and you've got this incredible,
Yeah.
content hub, let alone, team members managing a lot of different things.
Mhm.
How would AI have changed what you did back then?
Yeah. Well, I think we can say straight at the outset, it would have changed production volume and frequency, right? I mean, from the straight up Gen AI standpoint, just being able to produce great content, as long as you know what you're doing, on brand, great content that is easy to get through approval processes, because Japanese company, a lot of stamps have to go on that approval.
Right.
And I'm literally talking stamps.
Oh,
They do
wow. Wow.
that. But if you could, with AI, you could build all of that into to guidelines, frameworks, to guardrails, et cetera, on the content that you build. So you could get drafts much faster, and really explore different topics that we weren't able to explore. So from the content side, we'd have, instead of looking for people to like, oh, what are we going to write this month, or what's going to be the thing this month, it would be, here's 3 things that we can write about this week.
Yeah.
And here's, we can make this happen with minimal extra help. So that's one very simple thing. But on the more kind of end-to-end marketing, if you think about it, first of all, research, I think a lot of it was like, finger in the wind type stuff back then. We had a lot of information, but to be able to take the historical sales data and look at the sales with whatever companies we were working at. So on the one hand, we would have been able to hone in that account-based marketing much, much, much more scientifically. On the other hand, by doing anything ranging from synthetics to just deep research, using deep research tools, building out RAG systems within MHI to really get all the content in the right places, I think we could have had a much better idea of who the most likely to buy audiences were from go.
Yeah.
And instead of looking for a conversion rate of 1 out of 1,000 people, because remember, you're talking about projects that are 30, 50, 60 million dollars. So you get one conversion, that's the game.
That's a win.
Yeah. So you could do all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of conversions, so there's a lot of data out there now about how AI, because we're able to just push out more content more often and segment it in very, very different ways, that it's really beginning to shorten the sales cycle. And it has for,
That's right.
for a long time. So looking, I mean, obviously a $40 million product, the sales
Yeah.
length time on something like that is pretty darn long.
6 months, a year, 2
Yeah,
years, sometimes
exactly.
longer. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
are you seeing regarding shortening the sales cycles with the
Yeah.
use of AI?
Well, the only thing that you can really shorten is what you can do. You can't control what the client is going to say or what their processes are. So if I could shorten the process from a 3-month preparation for a response for an RFP response, or because it would take that long, you have to do feasibility studies and kind of go through all of these hoops. But if you can shorten that to 6 weeks or even 2 weeks, even sometimes, depending. If you could templatize some of these things and teach your AI, give the AI all of your corporate information, so nobody has to scramble for what were the data on these particular things every single time. Like these seem like no-brainer wins, and you could cut the process on your end by any percent, on a drastically, I would think up to 50, 60, 70%, maybe more.
Right.
So you could cut the sales process. You could always also equip your salespeople so much better with the right information,
Right.
and combine that with a constant drumbeat of your narrative and your stories in earned media and certainly in owned media. So, the halo effect would theoretically shorten sales cycles, because trust would be built in the system much sooner and much faster.
Right.
So on all levels, I think it would help shorten that cycle. Whether it's a $30 million project or a $30,000 project, it would still go do wonders.
Yeah, it becomes a done deal far more quickly. I
Mm-hmm.
think one thing that a lot of marketers are struggling with today, and you even mentioned it with your MIH days, is the organizational approvals and organizational
Mm-hmm.
alignment.
Yeah.
How would you, again, looking back on your tenure there, how would you have utilized AI from an
Mm-hmm.
organizational alignment standpoint to really help the team out and maybe less stamps
Yeah.
needed?
I have an easy one that's only for that. It's kind of cheating a little bit, because it was Mitsubishi Heavy. All the decision making, or most of it, was done in Japan. So one of the things would be certainly translation, like
Yeah.
getting all of the documentation, everything done, everything translated, even our briefs, even our emails, everything translated quickly. My Japanese is good. It's not that good. It's not, hey, produce document, translate it at the same time. Good. So, it would help a lot in transmitting the message that we want to transmit to the decision makers there and to the people who hold the budget. So that's one thing. Other things would be, being able to, I think, create these joint workflows where you're sharing, let's say, if it's a shared GPT or a Claude project that everybody shares, or or even an like a RAG system that you can build with Notebook LM, even, right? But something like this that you can share across resources. I mean, think about the way you could mitigate risk of drift from the brand. Think about the way that you could actually help people to really keep the message going. You stop resistance at the subsidiary level, because half the resistance is about like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a whole lot more work for me, and I have other products to sell. So, there's numerous ways I think that it would have helped, and it still would.
Well, and we're exploring them each and every day. There's no doubt about it. I think half of what I've learned with AI is just simple. How would you approach this? Or, it's not the strategy, but it's my favorite question is, what questions do you have for me that I've not thought of? Things like that, I think really helps. So let's talk through what the modern AI tech stack looks like. And we're going to receive some great insights from Dan on some tips that he's learned along the way. So we're developing a strategy within AI. You and I completely agree. that the human intellect and the IP, that is
Mhm.
everything going into it, is what ultimately is going to create the strongest outcomes. So let's start with competitive analysis. What do
Sure.
marketers do now that AI would have taken minutes to achieve,
Yeah.
and where in the past it was weeks on end?
Yeah. I think a lot of marketers are getting clued in for sure on how AI can really speed up the process. And there's no replacing, let me just make it clear that there's no replacing, I think, real field research done by the Ipsoses of the world and the Harrises of the world and whatnot, or the Cantors of the world.
Right.
There's a lot of value there. I would expect them to speed their processes up, but still, asking real humans what's going on with competitive research is important. But now, with the tools that are available, and certainly with deep research tools, with analytical tools that come with basically any frontier model, large language model, um, doing a competitive analysis is almost as simple as inputting the names of the competitors and saying go. I mean, clearly you need to have the understanding of what you're looking for before you say go. So
Right.
you'd be packing the prompt, and or even better, building a repeatable process of some kind, like a GPT or a project or a skill if you're using Claude. Pack your competitive analysis needs into a skill, and then every time you get into Claude or anytime you open up Cowork, you just put the names of the four companies and you say competitive analysis skill, and boom.
Yeah.
15 minutes later, you have a thorough report. So what goes into that and how you break it down, what data you're asking for is really dependent on your business and your own knowledge. So that's the critical point. Yeah.
One thing that we do at Avocet is we build a PID grid. Sorry, POD. So points of parity, points of differentiation, points of distinction. And that framework, the more framework you provide the AI tools, I think the better outcome you're going to achieve. And then what we do is we take a look at all the features and benefit sets that every competitor has within the market. And then we ask it to take a look at competition as it relates to apathy, not wanting to make a change, doing it the same old way that we've done it. Those sort of insights, I think, really lead you down a better path.
Yeah.
And that framework has worked very, very well for Avocet and our clients.
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of frameworks, and just, whether it's proprietary or something you find that works, just
Right.
it if it suits your business case, your use case, it will, it's a multiplier effect on the efficiency or the effectiveness of the results of the AI. I would also say that the other critical point is the context that you're giving, the AI. So you could have all these frameworks, but you have to have I think the know-how, the understanding to say, okay, well, how can I define apathy, or what are the resources that you should be looking at, AI guy or AI girl, whatever you want to call it. But what are the resources you should be looking at like specifically regarding this? Like, think about what you could do. There's so many layers and levels, but if you say, hey, look, I just want you to look at product catalog A, B, C, and D, and then look at our product catalog. And at this first level, all I want to do is take an inferential approach to what the narratives are telling the customer. And then you can kind of build this analysis on that and just start there. Or you can start with, look at the corporate information, look at all the annual reports. And, it's endless. And it just depends on what you are aiming for. Make sure that you know how to align the context that you provide with what you're aiming for.
Yeah, I agree. I think audience segmentation is another area that is very, very interesting right now. How do you think about audience segmentation differently now because of AI?
It's back in the day, whatever that was, you could say 30 years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
It's funny. Some of these things are cyclical though, right? Like some things everything old is new again. When you started building out content marketing back in the day, you're talking about personas. Oh, what's the persona of the person that's going to visit this? That has not changed. That is exactly the same thing we need to do now. But the channels that are available and the fracturing of audiences and their I think their consumption habits has demanded a much more detailed and precise approach.
Right.
And you could have a persona, but if you don't know that, no, this person actually doesn't like to be like public, they're spending all their time on Discord, then you need a strategy to get into Discord or into these dark social places, right? So you have to break down the personas a lot deeper. Um, so I didn't invent this myself. I didn't, I'm not necessarily the persona or kind of audience definition person of note, but being in the AI world, you find pieces and find people who do this. So I've taken some of the work of our mutual friend Matt Wilkinson, and I love the way that he approaches personas and builds them from AI, and they're so good. I mean, they're so I think precise. There's another company out there called I think Rad Intel is the name of the company. They do this incredible work on influencers and influencer ID using AI and their own processes. So it's out there, right? And
It is.
now you have this capability to build synthetic audiences that you know naysayers will say. Well, naysayers will say that well, it's synthetic. It's not really, what happens if you do a focus group and it's raining that day, then you get a different opinion. Like, exactly. That's why you want the synthetics, because
Yeah.
you have a consistency of opinion. Then you want to validate with real people, but at least you can narrow down your direction and go in I think in a more effective direction.
Well, and how Matt in particular is using the synthetics also. One of the ways
Hmm.
is providing content information to them and getting a reaction.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that. Oh,
yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
Mhm.
before you actually hit the market and get the
Mhm.
reaction. So that
Yeah.
sort of thing, I think scientifically is it's one of those areas of marketing that we've had to wait too long to obtain.
Yeah.
That intel on that I think is
Eh,
incredible. Where
Yeah.
where do you see marketers still overestimating AI's capabilities today?
I'm gonna try to answer that question. I think maybe from a side angle a little bit here, right? I think that there's an overall problem or challenge in enterprise, especially now. Like, there's always exceptions, and certainly there's a lot of marketing consultants and solopreneurs, people working for like nimble agencies. It's a little different, but the vast majority of people who are in corporate marketing, um, it's not that they're overestimating. I just think that they've stalled.
Mm,
Like, I think they've gotten to a point, and that they're like, all right, it doesn't do everything I wanted it to do, so I'm just not going to bother. I have work. I have to get through my day. You know, and that's a problem with not only their understanding of AI, because I certainly don't want to do any victim shaming here, but it's more about the the nature of how large organizations are training and implementing and rolling out these what they're calling software products when they're really not software products. They require a cultural change at the deepest level at a company. And if you have your marketers I think are floundering, or else they're just giving up. Now then you'll have this kind of slim percentage that's really like, oh, I get this, I get it, this is amazing, and they'll run. And when they run, they distance themselves from their peers and their colleagues at all levels.
right.
And it creates a really weird dynamic in these companies where, okay, well, what are we supposed to do with these people? It's much more comfortable to deal with people who are just doing their job and sticking to checking the boxes. So I think one of the frustrations of marketers, especially with those who see the potential of AI, is there's no job description that's equipped to deal with how far they can go. They're not getting clear instruction on what they're allowed and not allowed to do. Governance is an issue sometimes. It's a whole kind of I suppose it's a multi-layered onion that still needs to be peeled.
Yeah. It's interesting if we take a look at, all the different tactics, thought leadership and executive authority
Hmm.
is one of those areas where there's so many more thought leaders
Yeah.
and there's so many more executive, authority positions in the market because AI is doing all the work for
Hmm.
someone and creating the insight and the authority and the idea because they never did before. So I think there's a risk in the market right now of really separating out those who are using AI only to create that, and
Yep.
and not AI as a strategy, but AI to create their position in the market versus
Yeah.
those who truly do have the IP and the authority position. What are you
Yes.
seeing regarding that friction between the two?
Well, I think ultimately the market will out, right? That you're going to get people who are start to be seen as frauds, or they're going to be able to only go so deep. Somebody who is suddenly a thought leader who's just using the AI to throw stuff out there is not going to be able to get on the stage. Is not going to be able to hold conversations. Not going to be able to be on a podcast to talk about stuff. You know, there's a limit to what they can do. But that's on one side. But the AI systems and the AI, the models out there now are getting so much smarter about, well, they're getting smart about everything, but they're getting so much, I think, depth in the way that they look at semantic relevance and distance from topics to who's delivering them, that yes, you can start to throw out a lot of content that says you are an expert in ceramics, for example. But what does your profile say about ceramics?
Right.
What does your evidence say about ceramics? What does the media say about your being a ceramics expert? What are your friends saying about it on Reddit? Like, is there a Wikipedia? Like, it goes on and on and on and on. And eventually what happens is all of it ladders up to, are you authoritative or not? And when that kind of decision point is reached, the AI will decide to recommend you or not.
Yeah.
Right. And whether it's somebody searching for you, or whether it's agentically motivated, think about people looking for jobs. You know, you say that you're doing this, you've been putting out all kinds of content about it, but that job search agent from the recruiter side is going to find out in literally nanoseconds whether or not you walk the walk as well as talk the talk. So I think you have to have the layers to prove who you are, the evidence behind you, the metrics, the validation, and that's exactly what we're finding now. Exactly what we're finding now.
And I think that's why the authority intelligence matters so much right now as well.
Thank you for that softball. It sure does. I mean, it definitely does. I'm branded today with my lily path. You know, that's what we're doing. You know, that's exactly what we're doing. We saw this gap. Like, there's people struggling to be visible. There's when there are others who are just like putting themselves out there as experts. But really, what it is if you're not telling your story right, then AI is just going to make it up or tell it for you, and it's not going to get it right. It's not going to get it correct. You're going to miss opportunities. You're going to be misclassified. You're going to miss chances, miss the job, miss the client. Who knows what it is? But if you've done the work, don't you deserve to be at least in the running? Right? Don't you deserve to be seen? So gain the intelligence over how your authority is being recognized with metrics, with diagnostics, starting with LinkedIn and moving on to the LLMs. I mean, there's a need and a call for this, so that you know what you need to address and you know where your gaps are.
Well, I could not agree more. And I tell you, such incredible insights today, Dan. What is the best way? I think they now know, but what is the best way for our audience to get in contact with you?
I'm all over LinkedIn. I do walk the walk. So check me out on LinkedIn. I'm there all the time. I have just Dan Nestle on LinkedIn. Lilypath.com is my new company, co-founded with Aaron Lunudi and Todd Grossman, but check it out. Lilypath.com. You can also listen to my show, The Trending Communicator, anywhere you listen to podcasts or on YouTube. And I am 100% certain that Lori will be a guest at some point soon. You know, I think that covers most of the bases. Yeah. You know, I'm out there. You can Google me, you can LLM me even, and you'll probably find who I am.
I definitely think that your authority intelligence is out there in the sphere someplace. So
thank you so much. Appreciate it.
As Dan reminded us today, AI is not replacing strategic thinking. It's amplifying it. The organizations that win won't be the ones with the most tools. They'll be the ones that use those tools to create better insights, stronger relationships, and greater trust, something that you all know is very, very important to Avocet. At Avocet, we call that building a trust foundation, the deliberate work of creating credibility before asking for action. AI can accelerate the process, but trust remains the ultimate growth engine. Thanks for joining us today on StrategyCast. And again, Dan, thank you so much for your incredible insights. Reach out to me at Lori Sartorius Jones on LinkedIn as well. That's a wrap for the day. Thank you again, Dan.
Thanks, Lori.
That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on today's show. We hope your strategic brains are spinning with new ideas and bold inspiration that will elevate your strategies and marketing know-how.